So far we have, this is our 10th webinar that we've done. And the purpose of these 10 webinars so far has been to lay some groundwork. We started with some very, very basic ideas and some group healing and the like. We eventually got into specific events. So we're getting deeper and deeper into the process. We then had with Shelley, as you'll recall, a two one-on-one sessions there, so you get more into the details of how we customize this to an individual. Okay, and then we've had a webinar on empaths and a number of things, but I have now established a good, solid working foundation for those who wish to peruse that. In the future, the webinars will not be every Saturday at 10 a.m. They will be every other Saturday at 10 a.m. So we have one today. The next one will be 2 Saturdays from now, and then 2 Saturdays from then, and so on. And this will all be listed on our website as to the times and all of that. That also gives me a chance in the meantime to start filling in some stuff, answering more questions, and so on. So I want to let you know that. So, which brings me to the point, there are actually 2 audiences to this. I'm putting them in 2 categories. One is there is preparation that goes on with this, and there's the understanding that all the foundational material on our website has been studied, practiced, and so on, so that we all have the same terminology here when we have discussions. And so that group is for those who've had the chance to do that preparation. The other group is those who are listening in. They want to learn some things from it. They want to get exposure to it, etc. For that group, some of the terms we use may be unfamiliar to you, and so on. Those will be filled in as you have a chance to prepare, as I discussed earlier. Okay, now, some of the feedback that I've gotten is that some of the suggestions that have been made along the way about how to bring love into the process, the unseen therapist into the process, and so on, using bubbles and this, that, and the other thing, for some people are fine. And for other people, they have difficulty with that. They feel like there's too many boundaries and this kind of thing. And so what I want to point out is, and all that leads into the empath difficulty we've had, where people start picking up other people's issues and this kind of thing. What I'd like to do is back up from that. I give ways for you folks to, I give you metaphors for you folks to use. They're things that I use. If they don't fit for you, the only thing you really need to develop here is the ability to, important word, share the loving feelings that you generate within yourself with others. Share. However you want to share it. You want to do it in a bubble. You want to become somebody else, as I do. You want to have a tunnel between you and them that has stuff going back and forth. Whatever you want to do is up to you, but the whole idea is to share the love. I think that word is going to be useful for us in time. Also, many of you with your feedback have reported to me that as we do our group work, your specific events gets substantial improvements. Hooray. What I really want, I'm going to point 2 things out to you about that. One of those is, even though we do that in a few minutes of these processes, we sort of say, well, okay, those specific events just don't bother me anymore. That is the equivalent of months, if not years, of some forms of conventional therapy. We sort of wave our hand at it because this, well, okay, that's gone, okay. But all that happened in an efficient way that before the EFT process was not available very, very often. Okay, now, the other thing that happens with this, and I get this reported to me, and this is important, is as these specific events get resolved, others start showing up, ones you had forgotten about or had repressed or something like that. That's very important, because the more we can put on the table, the more we can clean out, and the higher up the spiritual ladder we can go. Now, let me see, a couple other points here before I get on to the meat of the day. I have an article on our website as part of the foundational articles called True Healing. It's defined as, healing is defined there True healing is defined as what we're aiming for with optimal EFT. True healing is not, gee, my headache went away, I'm healed. Or, gee, I've gotten this physical improvement, and therefore healing has occurred. No, those are physical things, and they are by their very nature temporary. That doesn't mean your headache's never going to come back, but something else will show up around the corner. You could have a very serious disease. You can have cancer. Surgery comes in. Tumors are removed, and so on. And presumably we are healed. And that seems like a complete healing. And in the terms of the world, the separated world, yes, 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 yes. But in the terms that we're dealing with, that is surface, because around the corner is another disease, another ailment someplace as we age and eventually die. Okay. So by that definition, all of these things are temporary. I used the term artificial last time. I often use the term surface as well. We're trying to get to true healing, and true healing is the recognition or the involvement of true forgiveness, which I will remind you means not the forgiveness we tend to use here in the separated world. Rather, it is the recognition that this separated world is an illusion. This is our scientists and all of our other inputs that we've been talking about have been telling us for decades. It is an illusion. And so we want to get beyond the illusion. And if we recognize that all of these emotional things and physical things and everything else are part of an illusion, that aims us towards true healing. Okay. Now, I'll give you that background because I have had to make an adjustment to that article, which I'm going to read to you here. You can go look at it yourselves. But it has to do with, it addresses the idea of impatience. There are many people, and I understand this. So listen, I have the same issue myself, okay? But what we tend to want to do is to take some process like the optimal EFT process, do it once or twice, and everything is done and well, and we've gotten it, and it's forever, and it takes care of all our problems immediately. Something like the McDonald's hamburger things, you know, the fast food, and, you know, to take care of my hunger now. But that isn't the way this process works. It is a process, and so I want to read to you a perspective on that. This is what I've added to that one article. I put a section in there, surface healing versus true healing. It says this: while true healing is our ultimate goal, we must be realistic and accept that we are simply entering a path in that direction. The destination is not ours yet, and we will certainly make our mistakes along the way. Thus, even though some of your earlier attempts at healing may appear substantial, the likelihood is they do not yet reflect true forgiveness and thus represents a form of surface healing. This is okay. You haven't done it wrong, nor are you defective, inadequate, or any of the other labels that we sometimes lay upon ourselves. You simply have more to learn, as do I. There is no hurry. Take one step at a time. Walk on velvet with the understanding that the unseen therapist has infinite patience. Love has nothing to do with time, so stub your toe and try again. Enjoy the process and giggle a bit along the way. Anyway, I wanted to make that point too, because I've had lots of feedback where people are expecting us to work magic and wonders and all this instantly, and that really is not what we're able to do here. The other thing I'll point out is that this optimal EFT process, this advancement on EFT, I've said this before, I'm just going to repeat it, does everything that the gold standard tapping form of EFT does, but adds several other layers. It brings in the spiritual dimension. Things happen more quickly often, deeper, more simply often, and so on. But that doesn't mean we still don't need to understand the mechanics and get down and customize these things to ourselves and play detective and dig stuff out. We just have a lot more help than we did in the other fashion. You have consented to spend a little time with me, but I'm going to ask everybody to do listening into this is to take notes on this, because after Claudia and I are done with this exercise, and by the way, you would be doing this exercise right along with us for your own benefit as an audience. Okay, we're designing it in that way. But take notes, because when Claudia and I are done, that's when you're going to raise your hand, ask questions and things like that, and we can really get this understood well within the whole group. But before we do that, I'm going to introduce Claudia a little bit. Claudia, by background, you are a nurse, are you not?
Correct.
Okay. Did you not tell me yesterday that you were also previously a psychiatric nurse?
Yes.
Okay.
At the very beginning of my career, yes.
And how long were you a psychiatric nurse?
3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
Okay, we didn't talk much about that, but I want to ask you something there. I presume there you were aiding people that had psychotic issues, hallucinations, paranoia, schizophrenia. Yes. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then I did, I was in charge of electroshock therapy, because back then we had patients for about 5 weeks in the hospital setting, and also addiction problems.
Okay. The question I'm going to ask you now is a little bit of an aside from where we're going to go later. It's a curiosity point for me. Mm-hmm. Among the patients that you aided with as a psychiatric nurse, mm-hmm. Did you deal with people who thought they were someone they really weren't, like the classic, I am Napoleon Bonaparte, or I am Jesus, or I am Hitler, or I am Elvis, or somebody like that?
Yes.
Okay. And this may seem off point, but I'm going to get to a point here in a minute. How do you deal with someone who believes they are something they are not?
Well, first of all, you accept that belief. And then the psychiatrists, of course, would lead the treatment. Nurses would support it. Mm-hmm. In reality, we didn't get very far. You know, what we did in allopathic medicine was just medicate and medicate and medicate and do a lot of cognitive therapy, speaking.
In one sense, were you not, and I'm overlaying my own perception on this, okay? Mm-hmm. In one sense, were you not trying to, in some fashion, convince them they really weren't this other illusory person?
That was the focus of treatment, yes.
Okay. So they could rejoin reality, so to speak. Uh-huh. No longer thinking they were Napoleon Bonaparte or some other person, okay?
Right.
All right. So now here's where I explore that. And again, it's a different what you and I are going to be doing for the rest of the time, but it's what I want to explore, okay? Interesting question. On these webinars and on my website, we have made the clear point that we are not who we think we are. The whole idea of separation is an illusion. Mm-hmm. Okay? We've been telling this by our scientists, by our spiritual practices. People have had these experiences, they've been in the other reality, myself included, and so on and so on. And there is loads of evidence, and that's why we're even here, that we are not who we think we are. We are not a bunch of separated people running around inside little containers, okay, spinning around on a little globe that's crashing through space at vast speeds or whatever it is, okay? We're not who we think we are. Does that mean we're insane?
No.
Oh, it doesn't. Well, just like the person who thinks they're Napoleon Bonaparte.
Maybe they were in a past life.
Well, that presumes a past life, etc. Okay. But see, this is interesting. Because in the technical, I think, in the technical definition of what insanity may be, would be to believe you are somebody you are not.
Right.
Okay? And
it's still accepted as the definition right now.
say it again?
It's still accepted as a definition in the present.
Okay. All right. Well, we indeed believe we are these individual bodies. Okay?
Right.
And we are very convinced about it, and our senses tell us this 24/7, 24/7. Okay. I just want to point that out because it's very healing in a way to actually recognize that there's some, maybe we don't want to call it insanity, too strong a word, but we are clearly confused about who we are.
Yes.
And maybe,
and it changes constantly. Yeah.
Yes, of course, of course. Anyway, I just wanted to make that point. Okay, now we're going to get onto the major thing. You a year ago, you and I appeared on stage in a exercise for radiating love that was filmed. In fact, it's now on our website as part of our materials. So you and I were there, and we were using a tapping form of that, of radiating love. And that gets into radiating love deeper than we've done in our webinars. Okay? So you and I today are going to do another form of that, designed to get deeper into the process. And you're willing to do this with me, and so you and I are going to do it, and it's going to be done in such a way that others can be doing it along the way for themselves and with themselves and so on. But we need to establish a thought or two first. I talked a little earlier today about surface healing versus true healing. And one of the things that I often hear is, oh, yes, my headache went away. I'm no longer bothered by this really bad memory and this and that and the other thing. And all of my specific events are now cleared and everything else. Okay. But there always seems to be something left. Why do I still think I'm running around inside a separate body? Why do I have, this is going to be an important term, resentments about people? In fact, we have resentments about those people who irritate us. And oftentimes we don't even realize we're carrying them around because they're so routine to us. Are you agreeing with this, Claudia?
Yes. Yeah. Very much.
All right. If you don't, please. Lay into me. Tell me tell me I need to leave or something, okay? All right. So what we want to do is get to this idea through the resentment door that we really are all one. We want to be able to own this rather than talk about it academically. And this is going to be a step towards owning this idea. Okay. Now, if we are all one, I'm going to ask you this, Claudia. If we are all one, and you have some of the people that you know are your dear friends that you have great affection for.
Yes.
Well, first of all, do you have such a group of friends?
Yes.
Okay. And when you are around those friends, would it not be true that what you are seeing, since they are one with you,
yes,
what you are seeing is what you like about them? You are seeing yourself in them because they're one with you. So what you're seeing in them that you like is something you like about you.
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to put words in your mouth now. No. So you challenge.
No, that's what attracts us to each other.
Okay. Yes. You see in somebody else out there things you like about you.
Yes.
Okay. Now, those people who may irritate you, do you have one or two of those?
Oh, yes. I'm human.
As we all do, as I do, as everybody here does. We have those who irritate us. Now, we may not want to admit it, but when we are looking at those people, do we not see things in ourselves we don't like about us?
Absolutely. And that's the question I always ask when something comes up and somebody really irritates me. I step back and say, okay, what what piece in this is me?
Yes. Well said. What piece in this is me? Now, if someone that you know is a child molester and you have great revulsion about that, and you may say to yourself, well, there's no child molester in me, Claudia, so I wouldn't do that, and therefore we're going to single this out, and that is not a reflection of me out there in that person at all. That is them. Would that be the correct conclusion?
Well, that's where we go in our head, but then if you really actually sit with it and go deeper, it's like, okay, what is that dynamic? I'm not caring about this person. I am abusing this person. And maybe that's the piece that I can own, that on occasion I have some of that.
Yeah, there is, even though our egos can say, that's not me. No, 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 no. There is some parallel in there. There's something about that. Maybe not just that exact behavior,
right,
but there is some piece of that, to use your term. Some piece of that is parallel to us, and that is one of the reasons, a major reason why we don't like that person.
Right.
Okay? Now, it may not be something as dramatic as child molesting. It may be simply gossiped about you, or stole something from you, or whatever other irritating thing they may have done. Okay? But it's very easy in the separated state to say, I am me inside my container. I wouldn't do that out there. Therefore, you are bad. And it allows us a false reason to convince ourselves that we are really good here. They are bad out there, but I am good in here. It's a dynamic that goes on in the separated state.
And the way I sometimes explain it to someone would be, we all have control issues to some extent. If you have all this resentment and negative feelings towards someone who was cruel to you or abused you or was vicious or whatever, I've done this in my personal life. I look at that and yes, it's hard to really dig deep and say, okay, what piece of this is in me? Yeah. But maybe towards that person, I also was very controlling. This desperation that I wanted them so very much to become aware, to see what they were doing, to change the dynamic between us.
Yes.
That's still control.
Yeah.
They're trying to control me, but I'm sending it back. And it's like, okay, it's polarized. I'm wanting something better to come of this. This person is sending negative energy towards me, but it's still control.
Yeah, and there's a whole long list of subtle little things that go on that help us stay within our separated containers of flesh, if you will.
Yeah.
Not the same as something, not the oneness and the beauty that is really there. We keep seeing all these other things, and as quantum physics, I'm just going to put that out again, says over and over again, the world we see is an outer projection of an inner state. It really isn't there, even though it is clearly, convincingly there. Okay. Nonetheless, it is an illusion. Okay, so here we are, and thank you for this input, Claudia. It's very, very, very helpful. So here we are with the dynamics we just talked about, in a way sort of insulated from the oneness of it all, because we're within inside our container, seeing all the other containers out there, and we have some we like and some we don't, and all of this, okay? We're not seeing the oneness. It is keeping us from, let me get to this point now, true forgiveness. That is, not just, I forgive you for being a child molester. I forgive you for, stealing from me or something like that. Oh, yes, 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 yes. When what we're really doing is sort of temporarily doing that and then sweeping it under the rug, and they better not do it again. But rather, true forgiveness is to recognize this is a dream. This is an illusion. It isn't even real, and these things never even really happen. very hard to get our heads around.
Right.
But nonetheless, for true forgiveness to take hold, we've got to take steps up that ladder in that direction. And that's what our exercise today is aimed at doing. Actually, that sounded pretty good coming from out of me. Did that work all right?
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to have a sort of a beginner's step in this. And this is what I'm going to ask everybody for your own use to follow along with. And again, take your notes down, everybody, and for questions you can ask later. So radiating love, as we have done it previously, is simply, in the simplest terms, is to remember a loving moment that you had. Not necessarily a dramatic moment, just some loving moment. We get quiet, and then we try to expand that loving moment, to intensify it. And as we do that, we typically find some barriers that come up. We go, just go so far. We get some self-talk coming in. Somebody doesn't deserve it or whatever. This stuff comes in. So we then address the barriers. We can do it with tapping if we want, or we could also do it with optimal EFT. Address the barriers. So we only just go so far with that. And then once we have collapsed some of those barriers, now we're able to do it like this, but now we have new barriers. Then we do some more barrier breaking, if you will, and then just like this, and we keep practicing that, and so on. Okay. And that is a useful exercise, and we are not trashing it by this exercise. We are giving you another way to go about it, which aims at the true forgiveness bit a little stronger. True forgiveness and hence true healing. And it goes like this. I'm going to ask you, Claudia, to pick out just one person that you really like. And I'm going to suggest, although you could, audience, you could choose a pet if you wanted to. I'm suggesting a person because a person is more likely to have even though you like them, a few irritating little pieces or something to them, okay? Where a pet maybe doesn't, okay? But either one. But for Claudia, if you choose a person.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what we want to do here is to have that person appear in your mind's eye and recognize there are two phases to that person for this purpose. One phase is the one you know of them, the personality, the nice things they say, the gestures they use, how they look and the softness in their voice and all of these features that you may like about them. Okay? The other phase is to go beyond all of those external features to what I'm calling the essence of them. And that we need to discuss what the essence is. So I need to have you, because you and I haven't discussed this much. How do you define the essence of this person?
Loving, creative, intelligent. Loving is the biggest part.
Okay. You said loving, creative, and intelligent. I would suggest, and thank you for that, I would suggest that the creative and intelligent part is part of their personality body. Okay. Mm-hmm. The essence that I'm trying to get to here is that absolute loving essence that is within all of us. It is the link to the oneness. It is not covered over by all the other personality stuff. It is that oneness and we can represent that as light. That's a typical way of doing it. Yeah. Is that how you would represent it, light, or would you represent it some other way?
I vary back and forth. Sometimes it's light, sometimes it's a sensation, a warm, feels like a hug.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, let me point out there, seeing the light is a visual way of going about it, using our visual sort of senses. Mm-hmm. Feeling the hug is a kinesthetic one. Some people are more auditory. They may want to hear a melody, yes, or a song or something, or hear something soft, Mm-hmm. And so I want to give the audience and you and everybody else opportunity To not just see a light. I will see a light. Okay, that is what I will tend to do. And I will expand that light, etc. But it can certainly just be a kinesthetic sense of warmth,
Mm-hmm.
a melody. You could make it a smell if you wanted to, a rose or whatever,
Right.
or a taste, if you chocolate. That's getting a little far off, I think. But so for you personally,
Mm-hmm.
and this will just be, everybody else is going to choose their own. But for you personally, are you going to choose a light, or are you going to choose a warmth? What are you going to choose as the essence of this person?
Light.
Light.
Yeah.
Okay. Light is something that you would.
Mm-hmm. That's my primary, how I do it, but sometimes it's the other. So I'll just use the primary.
Okay. Well, I'm using that as well.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I do. Okay. So if you were to just zero in on the essence of this person, the light in this person, not all the personality stuff, just that core light that is in, important phrase, is in everyone, despite all the irritating personalities that may be around it.
Yes.
If you were to just focus on that light and then expand it, well, not if, let's do it. Okay.
Okay.
What I'm going to ask you to do now, and I'm going to time it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a timing for everybody else as well. Let me get my stopwatch set up correctly here. Okay. Is in a moment to close your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving this instruction to everybody else here.
Mm-hmm.
Find somebody that you really have affection for. And it can be a pet. I just suggest a person. That you really have affection for. Locate just that essence. It has nothing to do with their personality. Locate in there that essence. Now, maybe someone can't even find that essence. That would be a barrier in and of itself. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do here first, before I actually have you do that, is I'm going to have everybody tap along with me for any barriers there may be to locating this essence in this person. Okay? So we're going to do the tapping form rather than the optimal EFT form, because most people are familiar with that at this point. So if everybody would tap along with me right here, even though I may have this barrier to finding the essence in this person.
Even though I may have this barrier to finding the essence in this person.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Okay. Any possible barriers?
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 Okay, now, Claudia and audience, if you would, I'm going to give you 2 minutes. The idea, and I'll go along with this myself, okay, is to close your eyes, find the essence in this person, locate it, and then expand, see how far you can intensify it, intensify it, intensify it, with the idea of it. Yeah, you're going to intensify how you see this person. The idea being eventually that's all you see in this person. That's our eventual goal. You don't see anything else in this person other than this loving light that is their essence. That's our eventual goal. So we want to keep expanding, intensifying it until we get there. Now, you may not get very far, in which case there's barriers, and that's what we have to locate. Self-talk, barriers, whatever, okay? So, locate the essence, expand as you can, find barriers. See you guys in 2 minutes. Okay, Claudia, what went on?
Very interesting. It was really good. But initially there was a barrier, which
Okay.
kind of surprised me.
And the barrier was?
I felt self-conscious stepping into the light.
You felt self-conscious. Put more words around that.
I was like, huh. I was looking at it and thinking, what is this about? I feel not exactly shy, but self-conscious. It's like, oh, so maybe it's about separation, sensing that separation, like, okay, get through it. Step
Okay.
out of it.
Good, good. Let me bring a point up here that might be useful and maybe applies here. And that is one of the features of optimal EFT is this little character called the guard at the gate. It's our ego, it's our belief in separation, which is very clever in doing everything it can to keep us from the oneness. Stay separate, please, because that is its view of its existence, hence your view of your existence.
Right.
So even though we're trying for the oneness, we've got this other break put on. Okay? I'm guessing that as you feel self-conscious in there, that's the guard at the gate going, aha, little self-conscious here, you don't really belong. How'd I do?
Yep, that's exactly what it felt like. It was like, it definitely felt like a barrier. It was a block.
Okay, so now what's important here, as it is important in all of the more sophisticated uses of EFT and optimal EFT, is that we start getting down into some of the details in this. We just don't cover it over with some round or two and say we feel better and then walk away. Okay, so now in your circumstance we have the guard at the gate making you feel self-conscious. I'm going to put that over here for a moment. I'm going to talk about one that I had. Okay, and people listening in will have their own. Okay, but I was going through this, and this was a lady I have a great deal of affection for, have had for years. Know her well, darling lady. And all of this, and I've been practicing this, with her as the target, if you will, for some time. This time, as I did it, one of her irritating little personality traits came in. It was sort of a yes, but, if you will. There's all this essence, and it's beautiful, and it's exquisite, but, and then this little personality quirk shows up, okay? So that's my guard at the gate saying, well, yeah, you're trying all this, yeah, but the reality is, look at all this other stuff, okay?
Right.
And that's just what goes on, okay? So, since we're not talking to everybody else, I'm talking to everybody else out there, but I'm not hearing from them. We have to make some assumptions. So, I'm hoping people out there are finding their own barriers. So you and I are going to do, yeah, as we are. So, yeah, so everybody will tap along with me, if you will. We're going to address these barriers. I'm going to address it more generally because I'm more general audience, but everybody knows their own individual barriers, okay? So tap along with me. Even though I have this barrier.
Even though I have this barrier.
Or these barriers.
Or these barriers.
To fully experiencing the essence.
To fully experiencing the essence.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
I deeply and completely accept myself.
Barriers to fully experiencing the essence.
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 Barriers to fully experiencing the barriers to more fully experiencing the essence.
Barriers to more fully experiencing the essence.
Essence experiencing barriers. I'm trying to shorten it.
Essence experiencing barriers.
These 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 barriers.
Okay. Well, we're going to do the same exercise again. Same people, same person, but now we're going to try it and see if that barrier shows up. If it does, we want to make note that it does because we weren't successful here. Okay, we'll try it again, maybe from a different angle. Maybe it is successful and you go on, but there's another barrier. So we're looking for barriers. That's the important thing. All right? Same process. See you in 2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes. So what happened, Claudia?
This is always so fascinating, so much fun.
Okay. Well, wait, we're not supposed to have fun. This is serious stuff.
Okay, I'll be serious.
All right.
It obviously was somewhat of a barrier because it took my focus for a bit, back and forth. This time what happened, it was actually much easier to expand and intensify it. But what kept coming in was very interesting was I kept literally feeling my heart beat very, very intensely in my head.
And
it wasn't in my heart. It was actually in my head.
Yeah. But do you perceive that as positive, negative, distracting, or what?
It was distracting in that it took my focus like 3 times to it. On the other hand, the way I interpret it, it's part of that of intensifying because it's all heart-centered, so to speak.
You mean it's evidence that you were successful in intensifying?
Yes.
Okay, that's why I asked the question, because it could have meant lots of different things.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's what it felt like. Okay,
all right. So,
but for a moment, the brain went to, oh, wow, that's really intense. Which is taking the focus to something and then coming back.
Okay, but wow, that's pretty intense, or what you just said.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Is that a distraction thing, or is that saying, oh, look, this is working?
It's both.
Oh, okay. Okay.
In my mind. It's validation, but it's also, oh, okay, get back to it.
Oh, I see. But get back to it. Okay. Uh-huh. All right. All right. All right. Is the guard at the gate in there anywhere?
He's opening the gate, but he's there.
He's there. Mm-hmm. Vigilant. Well, you see, but let's talk about this for a second. This practice is not one of these practices that you do it once and voila, you see the essence of everybody forever, including this person and so on. It's a practice we are doing for now, and we're seeing it for now, and we are, to use one of my previous phrases, chipping away, if you will, at this effort towards recognizing the oneness.
Right.
It's a very good chipping away thing. But, so, the likelihood is, if we did another round of this, we would go still further, okay? But then we will stop doing this. The webinar will be over eventually. We'll go back to our daily living. Something will happen, something else will happen, and we won't be seeing the essence anymore. We'll be seeing the personalities.
Right.
Okay. So, we need to get back to the practice.
Yes.
And the more we practice it, the more we see the essence, the more it tends to move towards habit. Important, very important phrase. The more we practice, the more it tends to move towards habit. Now, what I found myself doing is I'll be doing this practice, yes, and I'll get distracted and everything else like everybody else does. But instead of beating myself up about it and say, oh my God, you're not doing it right and all that kind of stuff, I just sort of giggle and say, there's the guard at the gate again. Okay. And there are times now when I'm more tuned into this, like I did this morning. I went to my supermarket this morning, did a little grocery shopping before we did this. And there was the other people in the grocery store. There was the gal who checks out my groceries most of the time, etc. And I consciously went around trying to, without even talking to them, just seeing the light, seeing them as light. Sometimes, yeah, whoa, there it would be, then it would fade. It's like, oh, there it would be, and then it would fade. Oh, can't do it at all with that one. Okay, can't do it with this one. Oh, there it is again. That's all a matter of practicing. It's a matter of having it become a habit, recognizing that we may understand it academically, but it's going to take effort and diligence and practice to own it.
Yes.
Big difference.
Yeah, and when I did it the other way, that's on the website now, the one we did a year ago.
Yeah.
It, doing it on a daily basis and continuously, the way you're explaining it is, it becomes habit. I think of it that way too. It's like internalizing it. It becomes part of who we are, what we do.
Yeah. Okay. So now, let's take this to go further with this. And by the way, we could do multitudes of rounds on this, and we'll get better and better. But I'm only going to do what we've done so far because I want to get the idea out and get questions in eventually, etc. Yes. But we've done this for someone that we like. Much easier to do at beginning stages than someone we don't like.
Right.
Because if someone is really irritating and has really done us in, or whatever the case may be, or we really just detest them or whatever, okay, then to be able to see their essence, to even see it to begin with, is a real challenge.
Yes.
It's a lot more of a challenge than it is to take somebody we really like. That's why I choose somebody we really like, we really have affection for, and practice and practice and practice on that, leaving the other for another day. Okay.
Yes.
But let me ask you, as you practice and practice and practice this and see the essence of those with other people you like, and practice and practice and practice, would it not be easier for you when you eventually get to those you don't like, which also have the same essence in there? Would it not be easier, having practiced with those that you like, to move that over into those you don't like?
Yes. Do the blocks come up immediately, the guard at the gate? Yes. But it's like riding the bicycle. At least you can go on autopilot for a while. You can keep moving forward, but you have to recognize what the blocks are and then work on that. Yes.
Now, the ultimate challenge here is to be able to see the essence, and only the essence, of everyone and everything. That is entering into the oneness. That is the true forgiveness, the true healing, and all of that. That is way up our ladder that we're trying to climb, okay? But when we can do that, and this is what our practicing leads us towards, then we see the oneness and all this other stuff that is in this dream, the outward projection of our inner condition we begin to recognize that it really isn't there. It really is a fiction, even though our senses say otherwise. It is a fiction.
Yeah.
Now, are we going to get there? Is everybody here going to go practice and get there next week, next month, next year, next decade? I don't know. But the practice of getting there climbs us up the ladder. We see the world differently. We see people differently. Those in the healing professions see the clients differently. They see the issues differently. The insights come more different. The presence of your presence grows. So it's the effort in climbing that ladder that we're on. Even though we may not get there, just approaching it can be stunning in its results as we traverse ourselves through this life in a separate body. Okay.
Absolutely.
You have anything to add to that?
It does get better. It does get easier. And it does, you're right, it shifts things so incredibly. You know, when things come up, you push them aside much more quickly, or you recognize and just, it's gone.
Yeah.
Acknowledging it. Then you go back to the light.
Okay. Thank you, Claudia. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to open the floor for, I see some hands are already raised here.
Okay.
I'm going to leave you unmuted.
Okay.
So that you and I'll be answering the questions, et cetera, but if you have anything to say and want to add to it, you will be unmuted and can do so. Okay. So let me call on Corinne France.
Hello.
Hi, Corinne.
Hello. How are you? Yes. I wanted to talk about the God of the Gate.
The guard at the gate.
Yes. It's very interesting to hear you talk about the light that you want to see in everyone, and considering the God of the Gate not really as being light. Is it the way you see, you imagine it to be? Like you want to connect to the light of the person you're thinking about, but the God of the Gate wouldn't be light?
Yeah, and let's remember, the guard at the gate is nothing more than a metaphor. It's a way of looking at our own resistance, our own belief in separation, and our own resistance, you know, to going beyond that. Okay, so when I bring up the guard at the gate, as Claudia and I did there in the conversation, it's more like this is the resistance that we have. Let's recognize the resistance. We're not calling it bad, sinful, the devil, blah, 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 any of that kind of stuff. It's just the recognition of our own resistance to getting there, of going beyond it. That's what I'm really trying to portray with that.
Okay. Has anyone or you ever tried to look at the God of the Gate, or to consider it as being in the core of it, light or love, or, you know, what you want, what you're talking about when we do radiating love? So, you know, last time, this nice couple that I see are here today, Cheryl and Howard.
Okay. Yeah.
We're talking about the God of the Gate, inviting it, or him, her during the session, inviting, you know, being, considering it as something that can be considered.
Yes, and that is certainly a way to go about it. Cheryl and Howard brought that whole idea up again, and I'm going to repeat that a little bit, Kareem, because the audio connection isn't perfect. Okay, and that is to consider the guard at the gate part of the party, if you will. That's my own term. I mean, somebody who joins in with all of this, include the guard at the gate in all of this, and do our healing with the guard at the gate in there. Yes, 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 yes. And if people want to do that, that is fine. I'm trying to distinguish the guard at the gate as to what it is. That is our own personal resistance. And how we deal with that guard at the gate is going to be probably a very individual thing. Some may want to do just exactly what Cheryl and Howard like to do and you do. Some may want to do it otherwise. But I want to make sure that it's clear what the guard at the gate really is. It is really nothing more than a belief. It's our own resistance to it. And I'm just giving it a metaphorical character.
Yes, yes. Okay, I see. Okay. I don't do it especially. I don't invite it especially. It's just that when I see people, I see light, I see it. I see that wow thing. And I also see the problems they are as dark energy forms. And these dark energy forms, I know that in the core of them, there is light too. So okay. It's just the way I perceive things. I just wanted to check with you.
But yeah, and that brings up something. I want to thank you for that, Kareem, because there's a thought that is kicked around. I haven't really talked about it much in these webinars. And that is ultimately, we would like to get to a point where we are absolutely in love with everyone. Now, I don't mean romantically or sexually or that kind of thing. I mean everyone, including your enemies or those who irritate you or anything like that, or the dark cloud, as you're putting it, that you absolutely fall in love with them. You're just ecstatic about their presence. Now, are we there yet? No. Am I there yet? No. Okay. Is that a place to gravitate towards, to aim towards? Yes. Is that way up the ladder? Yes. But how would life be if every time we saw anybody, we were just ecstatically in love with them? Too much theory? Too much theory? Too grandiose? Too far out there? Perhaps. But I like to shoot for high goals and see how close I can come. All right. Thanks so much, Kareem.
Thank you.
Okay, Beverly Gowan.
Yes. I selected my husband, and the first exercise that we did on the seeing the essence, I saw his essence, and it included everybody that is connected to him. So the second time, I was able to just see his essence, which is full of a lot of pain. Which, yes, he is full of a lot of pain.
Physical pain?
Physical pain.
Okay. All right. So I don't know all that goes in there, so let me respond, and then you tell me if I've got it right, and so on, okay? So we can be clear on all of this. The idea of this was to find his essence, meaning his loving essence. Now, what you did with that effort was you ended up seeing his pain, okay? And so that would be a barrier to seeing the loving essence. I mean, at least from the words that I'm hearing from you, that's what would happen. You're trying the loving essence, but you got this barrier. Here comes the pain. The pain distracts you from seeing the loving essence. Do I understand it correctly?
No, I'm not sure.
Well, okay. Try it again then.
But he does have this loving essence. But I think it includes a lot of pain. Okay, I'm not sure. Okay, then the loving essence would be at the core of the person, and the pain would just be an undocumented feature.
Well, yeah, and in the way I portrayed it earlier, that would be sort of his, although it's a bit of a stretch for the words, but it's like its personality. Yeah, a feature. You use that term. It's a feature of him. So yeah, people can be in pain. They can be vicious to others, or although we're trying to pick somebody that we really love, okay? But they can be all these things, but at the core, at the essence of all of that is this loving peace. And that's what we were trying to find. Now, if I'm hearing right, you didn't get to that loving peace, at least not often, because, oh, here comes the pain. Okay.
That could have been my trying to fix it.
Well, and it could have been that too. That again would be a barrier.
Right.
Yeah. And one of it's a very natural thing. I don't know if you're doing this or not, Beverly, so I'm speaking to a larger audience here. But it would be a very tempting thing to say, okay, we're using all this, but I personally have a pain, or I know somebody who has pain or an ailment or something, so I'm going to try to use all this, you know, for this other purpose. And that's very tempting, and a number of people do that, I know. You may be doing that as well.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, thank you. I hope that helps.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye. Nancy Neff.
Yeah, I wanted to report on my experience. I also used my guy, the man in my life, who I love dearly, but he can be extremely annoying. And I pictured him at first with a big sun in the middle of his chest. He's like just a big heart, loving guy. And my judgment started coming up really quickly in the first round of he should be spending more time with this person instead of that person. He's helping this family member too much and he's neglecting himself. And I pulled back and I said, wait a minute, this is his life, his choices. It's not your choices, Nancy. So I was able to reduce that and see him in a more loving way. And then we did the tapping, and the interesting thing for me was the second round, because I saw
wait, if I may, I want to stop on the first round just so I don't forget a point. I'm sorry for interrupting you here. But you were seeing these annoying traits.
Right, and it was my own resistance to how he should be spending his time, and that's not my choice.
Well, in the context of the way we're portraying this process, that would be a barrier to seeing his essence.
Yes, exactly, and I realized that.
And so that is a barrier that we can then do some barrier breaking on.
Yeah, I plan to do more of that because it's not a solved problem, but I was startled how strong the judgment was on my part.
Listen, and thank you all over the place for that, because as we do these things, we are going to get more and more into how startling some of this stuff is, and we don't even know it.
Right. So I'm humbled and grateful for the information.
Yeah. Okay. I did interrupt you. I'm sorry. The second round, and then go ahead.
Right. What I want to say about the second round is I felt a stronger connection immediately to him right away. I saw his light very bright in his chest, and I saw a light in my chest responding to it, like two suns. And the energy started bouncing back and forth between us, like, you know, a ping pong ball or something. And we were both getting brighter and warmer, like brighter suns. And I got scared. I said, oh my God, am I going to blow up? Are we both going to explode? And I could feel myself back away. And I'm thinking, maybe I need to take this a little bit more slowly. But that obviously is the guard at the gate resistance again. Yeah,
that's what I'm hearing there. See, if I'm hearing it right, and again, I'm not in anybody else's shoes. I want to hear your words. But if I'm hearing it correctly, you're getting pretty close to, you know, some really pretty profound spiritual awareness.
Oh, my head is starting to explode when you say that. Yes, I am.
And the guard at the gate is going, whoa, wait, you're this separate person here now. You know, if you go over there, I don't, you know, there's something, I disappear, I vanish, or.
Exactly. Too much, you know, too much. It's right.
Yeah. And so, yeah, for a lot of us, too slowly. Now, I had that experience, my own spiritual experience, back in 1988, where I just went all the way.
Right. Yeah, I've heard you talk about
and
that.
It was really exquisite. I came back from it. Yeah, I presume it was my choice. It would have to have been, but I'm just not aware of all of my thinking that went on at that time. You know, it's been some time ago. But there's something else I want to pick up on it. You said, Nancy.
Okay.
And that is, you would see him with this sun in his chest, and then you saw the sun in your chest.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, what I want to point out about that is that one of the main reasons we're doing this, and I didn't hit it hard enough to begin with, is that as we see other people, so we see ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If we see people that we love and we see all these loving things and nice things about them, that reflects what we think about ourselves. That's how we see ourselves. But these other irritating, annoying, vicious people, etc., are enemies over here.
Right.
There's also some of us in them that we don't want to really look at.
Yes.
Okay? So the idea is, if we can see the beauty of somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
that reflects on the fact that we are seeing the beauty in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can then transfer that over to seeing the beauty in everyone, including these others over here,
Right.
that means we will no longer seeing these lesser attractive things
Mm-hmm.
about ourselves out there. We will be seeing the love in there. Very theoretical, but it's a beautiful, beautiful goal to attempt.
Yes, I agree. And I want to just second the comment that you made earlier, that if we practice on people who we really like a lot but have a few annoying qualities, it'll be easier to do this with people that we don't really like that much. It's like building a muscle. So I agree with that.
Yeah, good content, like building a muscle. I like it. I like it. I like it. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Sure. Thanks, Gary.
Okay. Let me see. Pamela Claire.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, how are you?
I see you from the chin up.
Okay.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for these workshops. I'm new to EFT and to your workshops, and this is the second week I came, and I was a little surprised last week when you when there wasn't a lot of tapping in it, but I was really I really liked it, and I wanted to know if you were familiar with Buddhist loving kindness meditation or metta meditation.
No, there's a lot of things, Pamela, that I'm not familiar with out there in the spiritual world.
Uh-huh.
I have ran into the Course in Miracles in 1986.
Okay.
And that so attracted me,
Mm-hmm.
and it took time to do it,
Yeah.
that my exposure to other spiritual processes out there is very limited. I'm all for it. If it works for you, it works for you. That's why I've said many times within these webinars and my whole website that what we're talking about here is my procedures, my spiritual quest, my way of doing it. It's not for you you don't have to buy it, borrow from it if you wish.
Yeah, it dovetails so nicely with the loving kindness meditation that I do. And when you were talking last week about, getting that love in your heart, it just enhances that. And I just was wondering, I know that there's lots of things out there and everybody doesn't know everyone, but I just was wondering if you had any experience with it. And this practice is very, it's a really good dovetail with that.
Well, if it works for you, and you want to combine that in with what you're learning here for your own purposes, fine. I am not putting this out as the absolute dogma for everybody to use. It's a set of principles to borrow from. You can adopt it completely if you want to, or piece by piece, or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. No, I realize that. I just wanted to find out about that, and thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Pamela.
Thank
you. Virginia McConnell.
I used my daughter, who is a perfect person, and there were no barriers. So I kept thinking, well, there's something wrong. And she went immediately to white light essence, almost like I would think a Christ essence. And it stayed that way. So maybe I need to think of someone I don't like as much.
Well,
there was nothing in the way, and not even I couldn't even see her. I just saw this light coming from a small place and getting and enlarging?
Well, and a good question. I mean, a good comment, Virginia. What happens if you don't have any barriers? Well, let me suggest that there are probably barriers anyway, even though I couldn't tell you what they are. But let me tell you why I say that. In the ultimate sense, if you are able to see her completely, perfectly, beautifully with this, nothing but this essence, then the ability to transfer that over to someone you don't like so well would be relatively easy to do, and you would be so far up that ladder that I mean, you'd be a lot farther up the ladder than maybe you think you are, and maybe you are up that ladder a long way. I don't know, but it seems to me there would be some other barrier in there that's outside your awareness now. Okay, but I can be wrong. So if I'm wrong on that, then why couldn't you take that ecstatic state and move it over so that you only see that in everybody else?
Well, I liked your idea, and I may just have to go to the grocery store, even though I don't need to today, to practice what you were practicing this morning, just on random people, to see what happens.
Virginia, it's
Yes.
Claudia.
Yeah.
I have a question, actually, and Gary too. Is it possible that the fact that you felt like there had to be a barrier showing up is the barrier?
You're asking me or Virginia?
Both.
You mean, oh, well, I didn't think there had to be. I just thought, well, where is it? But there wasn't. There was just the...
No, that's what I'm saying. The mind is saying, oh, there's no barrier here.
Yes.
That right there is a tiny barrier. You're looking for it. It's taking it's a distraction. It's taking you from doing it just for a second.
But I wouldn't have even thought of a barrier if you hadn't mentioned it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
You just thought, well, this is just how she is.
well, you know, it's a fascinating. I've never had that question asked of me because there's just about always barriers. Okay, so I haven't had that one posed to me yet, Virginia. Let me ask you this: do you always see your daughter that way?
Yes.
You always see her that way.
Well, but I've never done it. No, I've never focused on it the way we are doing that. But I've always thought of her as an exceptional person. And so I've never had much cause to not like what she's doing. And I mean, she's fully grown, so this has been a long time. So I haven't tried this with her before.
Okay. Well, you're also. I'm picking up on your words, Virginia. You're talking about her features, things that she does, and all of this.
Oh, well, I didn't even see her face on this, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, we're trying to get to a different essence. But anyway, I don't know where to go with this other than the fact that somebody doesn't appear to have any barriers. But I mean, if you get to a point with even one person, daughter or otherwise, where you have absolutely no barriers and you can see this essence in that other person, that means you can see it in yourself. That means you can transfer it to other places. If you're not able to do that, chances are there are some barriers you haven't identified. But that's just one of the areas I'd love to hear from you about.
Well, yes, that's why I was saying I should try it maybe with someone else.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. All right, Virginia. Anything more?
That's all.
All right. Thanks. Pandora.
Hi, Gary. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, my goodness, you can hear me.
Yes.
What a surprise. I had a very interesting experience. I'm Jewish, and my person turned into Jesus, and all in light, and it reminded me of a photograph I saw of Jesus where he's got the heart and all this brilliant light coming out of the heart, and that's what it was for me. This person was encased in that kind of a light. When we did the tapping, the second part of this was Jesus took my hand. We went up into the heavens filled with lights, and the guard at the gate, the little boy, was there, and I reached out to him, and he took my hand, and he went up to the heavens with us, and you were there with us as well, and some of the people that spoke today were in the background, but they were there filled with this huge, it's not a ball even, it was just eternal light all around. And that was it.
Well, that sounds very much to me like what Virginia was talking about, earlier.
Yes.
And so the thing to do, is to try to transfer that now to people you don't have the same, that you may have some grievances with, some difficulties with.
Right.
Because the ultimate idea is to be able to do that with everyone and everything. That is your ticket into the oneness. And you, as I'm hearing it, you just got yourself at least partway in the door.
Well, mentally I was doing that. I was thinking about people that I don't like. And while you were talking and other people were talking, I kind of mentally picked somebody I don't really like and just try to see the essence in them. And it was there. It was like, oh.
All right.
That was nice.
Wonderful. Wonderful. The practice now is can you maintain that? Can you keep practicing that? Can you walk around the world with all the people that you see and come in contact with and see that in everyone? As you do, as you see that in everyone, you will see that in yourself. And your own personal health will improve. Your own outlook will improve. I mean, everything will improve to the extent that you can see more and more and more of that. So to me, that's a great start.
That's exciting.
Yeah, okay. Let me know what happens.
I will. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Pandora. Geraldine Byrne.
Hi, Gary. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Gary. It's really nice to meet you. I've been following you over the years. Yeah, well, I tried to, I chose my daughter, who I love very much. And I found I was trying to get rid of all the personal things about her that I might love her for, if you like, and just try to get to the essence. And I was having a bit of difficulty, but I started to feel what I normally feel when I try to feel love, which I feel a feeling in my chest. I think I tend to feel rather than see something. I feel a strong or a kind of a feeling in my chest. And the more I tried to get to the essence of my daughter, the more I just felt. So I was saying, am I just feeling my love for her? And then I was saying, well, maybe is it the same thing, her essence and my love for her? I couldn't really distinguish between, I couldn't get her essence. All I could feel was something in my chest, which is what I normally feel when I try to feel love when we're doing the optional EFT.
Okay, I would have a question for you, Geraldine. This feeling in your chest, is it a love feeling, a pain feeling, a discomfort feeling? What is it?
No, it's a love feeling. It's what I feel when I feel love, when I do optimal EFT, and I feel this kind of warm feeling in my chest.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you are more kinesthetically oriented rather than to see light. Yeah, okay.
I think so. I don't tend to see light. I tend to feel it more.
Okay. Well, I'm not you, of course, so I can only make a suggestion to you.
Mm.
And that is when you're feeling this, so, here is evidence of this loving feeling, this evidence of this essence in my daughter. Okay.
Well, I didn't know whether it was the essence of her or whether it was just my love for her.
Well, I'm not sure there's a difference. Okay.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but we get into, I mean, people can debate all these things, but let me, You make an interesting point. I want to talk about it in a minute if I can. So one thing you might want to do is then take this feeling in your chest, this love feeling, the essence evidence, and try to expand it even more, make it even more loving, and see if there's barriers there. And then we'll try to break the barriers, okay? And then expand more and more and more. Take the loving, you see, just like expanding the light, we expand the feeling, okay? And the more you can expand that, the higher up this ladder you're going. And you practice and practice and practice. But practice on your daughter, get to the point where you can, even for her, make it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, okay? Does that work?
Yeah, I'll try that. That's great. Thanks. Right. Thanks a million. It's great what you're doing. Thank you.
Okay, Shelley.
I didn't have any trouble, no blocks with the people I chose.
Oh, okay. Well, I know from our past conversations that there are people with whom you do have blocks.
Pardon?
I know from our past conversations there are people with whom you do have blocks.
Yeah, but I did a lot of work this week. A lot of work, and a lot of that has lifted.
Okay. Well, okay, you may be ready to start moving this over into people you don't like, and
I've been doing that this week. I've been studying your optimal site, and I've been doing a lot of work with myself by watching those videos.
Okay. Now, one thing we have to keep in mind is we do this and we improve, our relationships. We improve how we see people and so on. The difficult thing to get sometimes, I'm not saying it's you, I'm talking to the general audience here. The difficult thing to get is, even though we've improved, we don't recognize, or it's difficult to recognize, how much more we can improve, okay? If we're down here and we improve to here, whoa, that's wonderful, but we don't really recognize that, we could be, 30 stories up. So keep at it, report back, the practice and everything else. The more practice, the better. Anything else?
I'm just feeling great. I'm feeling more and more free every day, the more I'm studying. Thank you very much for all this.
Okay, Shelley. Okay, Shelley was our last question. There's more questions. Ask them now. I still have Claudia. Claudia, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think it's wonderful that, we're sort of, again, seeing the synergy in how we're all experiencing this. People that acknowledge their blocks or barriers, they're very similar in the things that come up for us. So it's lovely to see that.
Okay, guys, if you would, let me remind you all again, please. But I'm gonna give you a fee for this free webinar, and that fee is to go to our contact form on our website and give me a feedback, even if it's a 1 or 2 liner. I like this or didn't like that. But the more feedback you can give me, the better, and the better I can customize this to everyone. So if you would, that feedback, please. Thank you, Claudia, so much. Big hug to you. Hug and kiss for everybody. See you next time.